In the heart of an ancient city, hidden away from the eyes of most mortals, stood a place unlike any other, the Whispering Library. Unlike ordinary libraries stacked with mundane texts, this was a realm suspended between time and space, where books were not mere pages but portals to living history. A young historian named Illyra Voss found herself standing before a massive door of dark, polished mahogany. The door was tall and imposing, with carvings that seemed almost alive, twisting vines curled around the frame, bursting into delicate blooms of flowers. At the center, a regal figure of a woman stood carved in exquisite detail, her flowing robes draped from one shoulder, a garland of roses woven through her cascading hair. This was Flora, the ancient goddess of flowers, springtime, and renewal. The door seemed to pulse with quiet energy beneath Illyra's trembling fingertips, as if breathing softly in the gentle light that spilled from a nearby window. Illyra's heart raced. She had been searching for the Whispering Library for years, following cryptic clues left in forgotten manuscripts. Scholars dismissed it as legend, but Illyra believed it was real, a gateway to understanding lost histories. Now, after a long journey, she was here. With a deep breath, she traced her finger along the carved vines, feeling the smooth ridges and subtle vibrations that hummed beneath her skin. As if sensing her readiness, the heavy door creaked open with surprising ease, revealing a vast hall bathed in golden candlelight. Marble columns stretched upward toward a vaulted ceiling, and a grand chandelier shimmered above, casting dancing shadows. Rows upon rows of wooden bookshelves, carved with the same intricate vine patterns, lined the walls. The air smelled of ancient parchment, cedarwood, and a faint trace of something magical, a scent that stirred memories long forgotten. Illyra stepped inside, her footsteps echoing softly on the polished stone floor. She paused in the foyer, taking in the opulence and mystery. Above her, a second-floor balcony wrapped around the hall, accessible by twin spiral staircases adorned with gold leaf banisters that shimmered in the flickering light. As she ascended the stairs, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The whispers began, faint voices echoing between the shelves, as if the books themselves were murmuring secrets. Illyra's fingers brushed the spines of the tomes as she passed, each bound in hues of ruby, sapphire, emerald, and deep lilac, titles etched in gold lettering. Her eyes caught on a slender volume bound in soft velvet lilac, its spine marked simply, 238 BCE. A shiver ran down her spine as she felt a sudden warmth radiate from the book, as though it beckoned her specifically. Carefully, she pulled the book from the shelf and carried it down the hallway to a cozy reading nook beneath a stained glass skylight. Plush cushions in woodland greens and floral pinks invited her to sit, and the golden glow seemed to wrap around her like a comforting blanket. Opening the book, Illyra admired the delicate floral border that mirrored the carvings on the door. The pages smelled of time itself, a mixture of old parchment and spring rain. As she began to read aloud, the words painted vivid scenes in her mind's eye. Ancient Rome stands as one of the greatest civilizations of the early world, the text began, renowned for its engineering marvels, architectural splendor, and the vibrant life of its citizens. Among the many traditions that shaped this society were the religious festivals that marked the passing of the seasons and honored the gods and goddesses who guided fate. Illyra's voice softened as she read about the festival of Floralia, a 6-day celebration starting on April 23, held in honor of Flora, goddess of flowers and renewal. The festival symbolized fertility, femininity, and the joyous rebirth of nature after the harsh winter. The book described how Flora, once a wild spirit of the forest, was embraced by the Roman people and woven into their pantheon by King Titus Tatius himself. Over centuries, the festival grew from modest offerings to a grand spectacle of flowers, music, and dance, a vivid reminder that life, even in times of hardship, would always bloom anew. Illyria could almost hear the laughter of Roman citizens as they adorned the streets with garlands and petals, the faint melodies of lyres and flutes drifting on a warm spring breeze. Suddenly, the library seemed to respond. The flickering candle flames brightened, and the whispers crescendoed into harmonious voices. Illyria felt a tingling sensation, as though the book was more than just ink on paper. It was a living connection to the past, a thread tying her to the people who once celebrated Floralia with passion and hope. Her mind filled with questions: what stories lay beyond the text? What secrets did the festival hold that time had forgotten? And what role, if any, did she have in this unfolding tapestry of history? The Whispering Library was no mere repository, it was an invitation to journey beyond the confines of her world, to step inside history itself, and perhaps, to change how that history might be remembered. Illyria closed the book gently, her heart pounding with anticipation. The adventure was just beginning. Illyria sat back on the plush velvet cushions, her fingers lightly tracing the embossed cover of the lilac book. The golden lettering shimmered faintly, as if alive. She felt the weight of centuries pressing gently on her shoulders, the whispers of the past urging her forward. The air around her thickened, and the library walls seemed to pulse rhythmically, breathing in unison with her own heart. She took a deep breath and reopened the book, eager to delve deeper into the festival of Floralia. The scene before her mind's eye shifted. She found herself transported to a sun-drenched plaza in ancient Rome, bustling with life. The cobblestones gleamed in the morning light, dust swirling lazily through the air as vendors hawked vibrant flowers, ripe fruits, and hand-woven garlands. Women and men adorned in colorful tunics and togas moved gracefully through the streets, their faces alight with anticipation and joy. The scent of roses, violets, and wild herbs mingled in the breeze, intoxicating and sweet. At the center of the square stood a majestic temple dedicated to Flora. Its marble pillars gleamed white, intricately carved with blooming flowers and twisting vines that seemed to reach toward the sky. Above the grand entrance, a massive golden statue of Flora herself presided, her arms outstretched in blessing, crowned with a wreath of fresh roses. Illyria's gaze was drawn to a young priestess standing beside the statue. Her name was Livia. Unlike the other celebrants, Livia's expression was serious, almost troubled. Draped in flowing white robes embroidered with emerald and gold, she carried a delicate silver bowl filled with sacred water and flower petals. As the festival commenced, Livia led the crowd in hymns and prayers, her voice clear and resonant. But behind her calm exterior, she harbored a secret, one that could unravel the very fabric of the festival. Earlier that year, Livia had discovered a hidden chamber beneath the temple. Its entrance was concealed beneath a mosaic floor, covered by centuries of dust and forgotten offerings. Inside, ancient scrolls revealed a prophecy, one warning that Floralia's celebration, if performed without reverence and true understanding, could awaken a force sleeping beneath the earth, threatening the balance between life and death. No one else knew of the chamber or the prophecy. Fearful and conflicted, Livia kept her secret close, unsure whether to share it with the temple priests or bury it forever. Back in the plaza, the festival had reached its crescendo. Dancers twirled in wreaths of daisies and poppies, musicians played lilting melodies on lyres and flutes, and children ran freely among the flower-strewn streets. Illyra watched as Livia prepared the final ritual, the offering of the bloom, where the most radiant flowers were to be cast into the sacred flame, symbolizing renewal and the eternal cycle of life. As Livia stepped forward, a sudden chill swept the plaza. The golden statue of Flora seemed to shimmer, her eyes glowing faintly in the afternoon sun. The crowd hushed, sensing something otherworldly stirring. From the shadows at the edge of the square, a cloaked figure observed silently. His name was Cassian, a scholar of forbidden lore and a rival of Illyra's own mentor. Cassian's ambitions stretched beyond the festival. He sought the power buried beneath the temple to rewrite history itself. Illyra's heart quickened. Was Cassian here by chance, or had he discovered the same secrets as Livia? As Livia raised the silver bowl, ready to cast the petals into the fire, Illyra felt the library walls tremble. The pages of the book fluttered wildly, and a low hum filled the air. Suddenly, a bright flash blinded Illyra, and when her vision cleared, she was no longer in the library but standing in the heart of the Floralia festival, beside Livia herself. The crowd's faces turned to her, surprised but welcoming. Livia whispered urgently, "You must help me. The prophecy is real, and Cassian plans to harness the power beneath the temple. If he succeeds, all of Rome will fall into chaos." Illyra swallowed her fear, feeling the weight of destiny settle on her shoulders. The adventure was no longer just a story, it was her reality. Together, Illyra and Livia set off into the winding streets of Rome, racing against time to uncover the hidden truths of the festival, stop Cassian's dark ambitions, and protect the delicate balance between life, death, and renewal. Will Illyra unlock the secrets buried beneath the festival of Floralia? Can Livia confront her fears and fulfill her sacred duty? And what ancient powers lie waiting to be awakened in the shadows? The journey had only just begun. The golden light of Floralia's fading sun cast long shadows across the cobblestones of ancient Rome, as Illyra and Livia darted through winding alleys, hearts pounding with urgency. The city's festive spirit belied a growing darkness, one that threatened to unravel everything. Cassian's presence loomed like a specter. His obsidian cloak billowed as he vanished into the labyrinthine streets, always just beyond reach but never out of mind. Whispers in the marketplace spoke of a mysterious stranger, eyes sharp as a hawk's, who sought forbidden knowledge buried beneath the city's sacred grounds. Illyra tightened her grip on the lilac book, its pages fluttering with cryptic annotations she had yet to decipher. The prophecy Livia had uncovered was a puzzle, fragments of warnings, riddles wrapped in ancient Latin verses, and sketches of an ominous sigil, a black rose entwined with thorn vines. The pair stopped briefly in a dimly lit courtyard, catching their breath beneath the flickering torches mounted on worn stone walls. Livia's gaze was fierce, determination ignited. "We can't let Cassian complete his ritual," she said, voice low. The prophecy speaks of the umbral bloom, a cursed flower that blooms once every century beneath the temple. It is the source of the goddess's power, and her curse. Illyra frowned. If that's true, why hasn't the temple priests warned anyone? Livia shook her head. Many don't believe in the prophecy. Others fear it. The temple's elders bury the truth, afraid of what might happen if the power falls into the wrong hands. Suddenly, a faint rustling caught their attention. From the shadows, a figure emerged, a slender man with piercing green eyes and a sly smile. It was Marcellus, an informant known for his intricate knowledge of Rome's secret passages. "I heard you're looking for answers," he said, voice smooth but edged with caution. "Cassian is planning something terrible. If you want to stop him, you'll need help navigating the Undercity." Illyra exchanged a glance with Livia. Trust was scarce in these times, but they had no choice. Together, the trio descended into the labyrinth beneath Rome's ancient tunnels lined with mossy bricks, dripping water echoing softly in the gloom. Illyra's heart pounded as the scent of earth and decay filled the air. The Undercity was a place forgotten by most, where shadows whispered secrets and forgotten gods slept restless. Marcellus led them to a hidden chamber, its walls adorned with faded frescoes depicting Flora's triumph over darkness. At the center, a stone pedestal held a sealed scroll, the final piece of the prophecy. As Illyra carefully broke the seal, the chamber trembled. An ancient voice echoed, low and haunting. "Only those pure of heart and steadfast of purpose may wield the bloom's power without doom." Illyra's eyes widened. The prophecy was a tested choice between salvation and destruction. Meanwhile, above ground, Cassian gathered his followers, a cabal of scholars and mystics hungry for power. They prepared a dark ritual to seize the umbral bloom and rewrite the course of history. His eyes gleamed with cold ambition. "With this power, Rome shall bow to me, and time itself will be my servant." Back in the Undercity, Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus pieced together the prophecy's riddles. They realized the ritual must be stopped before the festival's final night, or the bloom's dark energy would consume the city. Suddenly, the chamber's entrance slammed shut. Shadows coalesced into a swirling vortex, threatening to trap them forever. Illyra gripped the lilac book, chanting the verses etched on its pages. A radiant light burst forth, pushing back the darkness. But the warning was clear: the race against time had begun. With Rome's fate hanging in the balance, alliances would be tested, secrets unveiled, and courage summoned. Will Illyra's resolve be strong enough to face Cassian's shadow? Can Livia embrace her destiny as Flora's true protector? And what sacrifices will they make to preserve the fragile thread of life? The festival's final day approaches, and with it, the reckoning. The first light of dawn crept over Rome's skyline as Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus emerged from the labyrinthine Undercity. The weight of the prophecy and the looming threat of Cassian pressed heavily on their minds. Time was slipping through their fingers like grains of sand. As they made their way toward the Temple of Flora, the city was awakening. Merchants set up stalls, children chased each other with wild laughter, and priests prepared altars adorned with fresh blossoms. But beneath the surface, tension hummed like an electric current. Unseen eyes watched their every move. Livia glanced nervously at the temple's towering facade. The umbral bloom grows in the sanctum floralis, the temple's innermost sanctuary. It's a place no outsider has set foot in for centuries. Illyra's fingers traced the edge of the lilac book. And the prophecy. It says only someone with a pure heart can safely enter. But how do we prove ourselves worthy? Marcella smirked. That's the part they don't tell you in history class. There's a test, hidden in plain sight, disguised as the festival's final rites. Inside the bustling temple courtyard, the trio navigated through celebrants adorned in floral wreaths and flowing robes. Colorful petals floated in the air like confetti, carried on the breeze. The scent of jasmine and honeysuckle was intoxicating. Suddenly, a herald's trumpet sounded, silencing the crowd. High priests clad in gold and emerald robes appeared, carrying sacred relics and ornate staffs. Livia stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. We seek passage to the sanctum floralis to protect the festival from a great darkness. The high priest, a tall man with a crown of woven vines, regarded her with piercing eyes. Many have sought the sanctum for power. Few have been deemed worthy. The trial awaits you. The trial was set within the temple's ancient garden of reflections, a labyrinthine hedge maze said to be enchanted by Flora herself. Legend spoke of trials testing courage, wisdom, and compassion, the virtues the goddess cherished. As they entered the maze, shadows stretched long and twisted between the fragrant hedges. The air grew cooler, tinged with the soft murmur of flowing water and distant birdsong. Illyra led, clutching the book tightly. Suddenly, the path split into three, each passage marked by a different flower carved in stone: the rose, the lily, and the ivy. A voice whispered through the maze, soft as a breeze, "Choose your path, seeker. Only one leads to truth." Livia hesitated, then spoke. The rose symbolizes passion and sacrifice. The lily, purity and renewal. The ivy, endurance and fidelity. Illyra nodded thoughtfully. We must trust our hearts but also our minds. They took separate paths, agreeing to meet at the maze's center. Illyra's path was lined with thorny rose bushes, their blossoms radiant but their thorns sharp. As she walked, illusions of past failures and fears rose to confront her, voices whispering doubts and shadows twisting into familiar faces. Drawing strength from her resolve, Illyra pressed forward, recalling the faces of those who believed in her. She plucked a single rose, its petals glowing faintly as she held it close. Livia's path wound through fields of pure white lilies, their fragrance calming yet strangely disorienting. Visions of innocence lost and the fragility of life danced before her eyes. She knelt and cupped a blooming lily, tears glistening as she embraced the weight of responsibility and the hope for renewal. Marcellus's path was a rugged trail draped in thick ivy, clinging to ancient stone. The climb was exhausting, testing his endurance. Phantom voices challenged his loyalty, whispering betrayals and hidden agendas. But loyalty to his newfound allies and the fate of Rome gave him strength. At the summit, he gathered ivy leaves, their vibrant green a symbol of unyielding fidelity. At the maze's heart, the three reunited, each clutching their symbolic flower. The ground trembled as a hidden door slowly revealed itself beneath a marble archway entwined with vines and blossoms. Beyond the door lay the sanctum floralis, bathed in ethereal light, with a single black rose blooming on a pedestal, its petals shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Suddenly, Cassian appeared, flanked by his dark acolytes. His voice echoed coldly, "You've passed the trials, impressive. But the power of the umbral bloom will be mine." A fierce battle erupted. Illaра's knowledge from the Lilac Book guided her, Livia's spiritual connection to Flora lent her strength, and Marcellus's cunning and agility kept them one step ahead. In the chaos, the black rose began to pulse violently. Illara realized the prophecy's true meaning. The bloom was a source of immense power that could either heal or destroy depending on the bearer's intent. Summoning every ounce of courage, Illara reached out and touched the rose, feeling its dark energy surge through her. Instead of corruption, a radiant warmth enveloped her, pushing back the shadows. Cassian screamed in fury as the power rejected him, his ambitions unraveling. The temple trembled once more, but this time in harmony, as if Flora herself blessed the victory. The umbral bloom's petals unfurled, releasing a shower of golden light that bathed the temple and the city beyond. As peace returned, Illara, Livia, and Marcella stood together, forever changed by their trials. The festival of Floralia was no longer just a celebration of spring, it was a testament to courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of hope. The radiant light of the umbral bloom slowly faded, leaving the temple of Flora bathed in a tranquil golden hue. Illara's heart still pounded from the fierce clash with Cassian and his followers, but the victory felt fragile like the calm before an even greater storm. As the crowd of celebrants gradually returned to their festivities, Illara, Livia, and Marcellus gathered near the temple's altar, each lost in thought. Livia's eyes flickered with a strange mix of relief and apprehension. "The prophecy may have been fulfilled, but I fear the bloom's power has awakened something else, something older." Marcellus nodded grimly. "Cassian's defeat may be just the beginning. I've heard whispers of a forgotten guardian, a being tasked by Flora herself to watch over the temple's deepest secrets." Illara felt a shiver run down her spine. The Lilac Book, still clutched in her hands, suddenly grew warm again. Its pages turned, revealing a previously unseen chapter titled "The Guardian of Shadows." The text spoke of an ancient entity named Sylvanus, a spirit born of earth and flower, charged with protecting the balance between life and decay. Sylvanus had been sealed away centuries ago when his powers became too great for mortals to control. But now, with the umbral bloom awakened, the seal was weakening. Determined to understand more, the trio descended back into the temple's undercity, seeking the hidden chamber where Sylvanus was said to rest. The air grew colder, thick with the scent of moss and damp stone. The walls seemed to pulse with latent magic as Illara traced the vines etched into the ancient bricks. A faint glow emanated from the center of the chamber, a crystal orb suspended above a pedestal. Suddenly, the orb shattered, releasing a burst of light and a low rumble that echoed through the temple's foundations. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in vines and blossoms, Sylvanus himself. His eyes glowed emerald green, his presence commanding yet mournful. Sylvanus spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. The bloom's awakening has disturbed my slumber. The balance is fragile, and dark forces gather beyond the horizon. Illyra stepped forward. What forces? And how can we help restore the balance? The Guardian's gaze hardened. Cassion's ambition was but a symptom. A far older darkness stirs a shadow god who once sought to consume the world's life force. Livia gasped. A shadow god? Like those in the old myths? Sylvanus nodded. Yes. His name is Nocturnus, the devourer of light. Bound eons ago by Flora's magic, but his prison weakens as the bloom flourishes. As they spoke, the temple trembled. Outside, the festival's joyous music faltered, replaced by an eerie silence. Marcellus clenched his fists. We need to prepare. If Nocturnus is rising, Rome faces a threat beyond anything we imagined. Illyra's mind raced. The lilac book revealed clues about a sacred relic, the hardwood dagger forged from the first bloom of Flora's eternal garden. Only with it could Nocturnus be truly sealed. The trio set out on a perilous quest beyond Rome's walls, venturing into ancient forests whispered to hold the last remnants of Flora's power. Their journey was fraught with danger, twisting paths, spectral wolves, and treacherous terrain. But along the way, Illyra discovered hidden strengths within herself, the ability to commune with nature, to feel the pulse of life around her. Livia's faith deepened, her connection to Flora growing stronger with every step, while Marcellus's knowledge of arcane lore proved invaluable against the shadowy creatures stalking them. One night, as they camped beneath a canopy of stars, Illyra shared a secret from the lilac book, a prophecy hinting at a betrayal from within their own circle. Someone among us may not be as they seem, she whispered. Livia's eyes widened in alarm, and Marcellus's jaw tightened. The next morning, they awoke to find their camp ransacked, the hardwood dagger missing. Pursuit was urgent. Beneath the moonlit sky, the trio raced to recover the dagger and confront the growing darkness, unaware that Cassion, though defeated, still pulled strings in the shadows, hungry for revenge and the chaos Nocturnus would bring. The fate of Rome and perhaps the world itself hung in a delicate balance as ancient powers awoke and alliances fractured. The dawn broke cold and gray over the ancient forests bordering Rome, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets. Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus hurried through the underbrush, their faces taut with urgency and fear. The loss of the hardwood dagger weighed heavily on their shoulders. Without it, Nocturnus's prison would soon break, and darkness would sweep across the world. But more troubling than the missing dagger was the prophecy Illyra had uncovered, a betrayal from within. Each of them bore the heavy suspicion in their eyes. As they set up camp beside a sparkling brook, tensions ran hot. Livia's voice trembled. We cannot trust everyone, not even those closest to us. Marcellus's jaw clenched. You think one of us has turned? Illyra nodded slowly, the lilac book open on her lap. The ancient verses hinted at a shadow moving unseen, a friend who would betray the light for power. Before anyone could speak, a rustling in the bushes made them leap to their feet. Emerging from the shadows was a young woman, eyes sharp and wary. I am Selene, she said breathlessly, a guardian of the forest and protector of the hardwood dagger. I've been tracking Cassion's followers. They seek to use the dagger's power for their own dark ends. Selene's arrival brought both relief and new questions. Could she be the ally they needed, or another piece of the prophecy's puzzle? Illyra decided to trust her instincts. Together, they pressed deeper into the forest, following faint traces of magic left by the stolen dagger. Meanwhile, far from the forest, Cassion plotted with his new allies a coven of shadow mages who reveled in chaos and destruction. His ambition burned hotter than ever, fueled by dark promises whispered by Nocturnus itself. Back in the forest, the group stumbled upon a hidden grove, where ancient stone pillars encircled a glowing pool. The air thrummed with raw magic. Selene stepped forward. This is the sanctuary of blooming shadows, a place where the boundary between worlds is thin. Cassion plans to use the dagger here to break Nocturnus's prison. Illyra's heart pounded. They had to reach the sanctuary first. A fierce battle erupted beneath the canopy as Cassion's forces ambushed them. Spells flashed, and vines writhed like serpents, twisting and striking. Illyra found herself face to face with a shadow mage whose eyes gleamed with malice. Drawing on her newfound connection to nature, she summoned a storm of petals that blinded her enemy, buying precious seconds. Livia's prayers invoked Flora's grace, healing wounds, and bolstering their strength. Marcellus's cunning and Selene's agility kept the enemy at bay. Amidst the chaos, a piercing scream shattered the air. Selene was struck, collapsing near the glowing pool. With her last breath, she whispered, "Beware the shadow within." Illyra's gaze flicked to Marcellus. His face betrayed a flicker of guilt before he disappeared into the shadows. Betrayal was no longer a vague prophecy, it was a harrowing reality. With heavy hearts, Illyra and Livia pressed on alone toward the sanctuary. The final confrontation with Cassion and perhaps something far darker awaited. The fate of Rome, the power of the umbral bloom, and the balance of light and shadow teetered on the edge. The forest lay cloaked in twilight's veil as Illyra and Livia pressed onward, their footsteps muffled by a thick carpet of fallen leaves. The weight of Selene's final words echoed in Illyra's mind, "Beware the shadow within." The ominous warning gnawed at her, twisting suspicion into a sharp blade. As they neared the sanctuary of blooming shadows, a cold wind whispered through the ancient trees, carrying with it a scent both familiar and foul. Illyra's senses sharpened, and her heart thudded unevenly. Something was watching them. Suddenly, from behind a gnarled oak, a figure stepped forth. Marcellus. His eyes, once allies' windows, now flickered with turmoil. Illyra. Livia, he began, voice thick with regret, "There is more to the prophecy than you know. I've been bound by a curse since childhood, a shadow that grows within me, linked to nocturnus. I tried to fight it, but it's part of my blood. Shock and betrayal crashed over them. Livia's voice was steady but tinged with sorrow. We all carry shadows, Marcellus. The question is, do we let them consume us, or do we fight? Marcellus nodded, tears glistening. I want to fight. Help me. Illyra stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Together. The uneasy alliance formed. They reached the sanctuary, a place where reality bent, and shadows danced with light. The glowing pool pulsed with energy, mirroring the black rose's sinister shimmer. Cassian awaited them, his face twisted in triumph. You're too late. The ritual begins. Dark tendrils erupted from the ground, snaking toward the trio. A fierce battle unfolded, spells clashed, vines ensnared, and the fate of worlds trembled on the edge. In a desperate move, Marcellus embraced the shadow within, channeling it to shield Illyra and Livia, but at great personal cost. As Cassian prepared the final incantation, Illyra drew the lilac book close, reciting a counterspell that summoned Flora's blessing. The black rose withered, its power waning. With a last surge of strength, Livia thrust the hardwood dagger into the earth, sealing Nocturnus's prison once more. The temple sighed in relief, the shadows retreating. Marcellus collapsed, freed but exhausted. In the aftermath, truths were unveiled, friendships forged anew, and the festival's meaning deepened. The battle was won, but the story and the magic of Floralia lived on. The morning sun spilled golden light across Rome, casting long shadows of olive trees and marble statues. The city, still humming with the echoes of the festival of Floralia, seemed to breathe anew, renewed in spirit and hope. But beneath the joyful celebrations, Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus knew that peace was but a fragile veneer. Marcellus, now freed from the curse's grip, was quiet, reflecting on the dark power that had almost consumed him. Illyra observed him closely, sensing the inner battle he still fought. The victory had come at a price, not just to their bodies but to their souls. Livia, meanwhile, was busy coordinating with the temple priests to safeguard the hardwood dagger and the lilac book. She knew these artifacts held the balance of nature's magic and that their protection was vital to prevent future calamities. As the trio gathered in the temple's sacred hall, an unexpected visitor arrived, an elderly woman cloaked in deep green robes embroidered with silver leaves. Her eyes sparkled with wisdom and warmth. I am Malia, keeper of the eternal garden, she introduced herself, her voice like the soft rustle of leaves. I have watched over the secrets of Flora's magic for centuries. Your courage has earned you my trust. Malia revealed that the festival of Floralia was only one part of a greater cycle, a delicate balance maintained by elemental guardians scattered across the world. She warned that while Nocturnus had been sealed again, other forces stirred in distant lands, threatening to upset the harmony. Illyra's mind raced. Their adventure was far from over. Malia entrusted them with a new quest to seek out the other elemental guardians and unite their strengths before darkness could rise again. With renewed purpose, the trio prepared to journey beyond Rome's borders, into unknown realms where ancient magic still thrived. Before departing, Livia approached the altar, offering a silent prayer to Flora, pledging to protect the sacred legacy entrusted to them. Illyra felt a deep connection to the goddess and the world around her. She understood now that their fight was part of a timeless story, one of life, death, renewal, and the eternal dance between light and shadow. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of rose and amber, Illyra, Livia, and Marcella set forth into the twilight, ready to face whatever awaited. Their story, intertwined with the magic of the ages, was only just beginning. The road ahead stretched far beyond Rome's borders, winding through lush valleys and towering mountains, as Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus embarked on their quest to find the elemental guardians. Their first destination was the realm of Illyria, the domain of the Wind Guardian, a place whispered of in legends and guarded by fierce storms and unseen forces. As they traveled, the trio shared stories of their pasts, hopes, and fears. Illyra confided in Livia about the strange dreams she'd been having, visions of swirling clouds, soaring birds, and a voice calling her name. Livia listened intently, sensing the deeper connection between Illyra and the forces they sought. Arriving at the edge of Illyria, they faced the Tempest Gate, a swirling vortex of wind and light, shimmering with raw elemental power. To pass, they had to prove their worth by facing the trial of the gale, a test of courage, balance, and harmony with the wind's spirit. Inside the tempest, Illyra's connection to nature deepened. She felt the wind's whispers guiding her, teaching her to move with grace and strength. Livia's prayers soothed the storm's fury, while Marcellus's wit helped them navigate the shifting currents. Emerging victorious, they met Zephyra, the wind guardian, a radiant figure with hair like silver clouds and eyes sparkling like the dawn sky. Zephyra revealed that the balance of the elements was fragile. Nocturnus's awakening had sent ripples across realms, stirring unrest among the guardians. She entrusted them with a feather from her wing, a token of her power and trust, and warned them to hurry, for dark forces were closing in. Their journey continued through mystical forests, scorching deserts, and frozen tundras, each realm presenting unique challenges and guardians. Along the way, old enemies resurfaced, and new allies joined their cause, expanding their circle and strength. Back in Rome, shadows lengthened as Cassian's lingering influence spread corruption, turning once peaceful lands into battlegrounds. Illyra's resolve hardened. The fate of the world rested on their success. The elemental guardians were more than symbols, they were living forces intertwined with life itself. Uniting them was their only hope to seal away Nocturnus forever. The winds of Illyria still whispered in Illyra's ears as they departed the realm of the Wind Guardian, the silver feather of Zephyra safely tucked away. Their next destination lay to the south, the realm of Piraxis, domain of the Fire Guardian, where volcanoes roared and the skies glowed crimson. Crossing jagged lava fields and ashen plains, the trio was met with searing heat that tested their endurance and will. Here, the Fire Guardian awaited Ignis, a figure wreathed in flames, eyes glowing like molten gold, whose very presence commanded respect and awe. Ignis's trial was brutal, a test of passion, willpower, and sacrifice. The trio had to navigate a maze of burning obsidian, facing visions that challenged their deepest fears and desires. Illyra saw illusions of losing those she loved, Livia confronted shadows of doubt and failure, and Marcellus wrestled with his lingering guilt over past betrayals. Emerging from the trial, their bonds stronger than ever, Ignis bestowed upon them a shard of eternal flame, a symbol of courage and transformation. Their journey continued to the frozen expanse of Glacera, realm of the Ice Guardian, Frostrella, an ethereal being of crystal and snow, calm and unyielding as the glaciers she commanded. Frostrella's test was one of clarity and endurance. The trio faced blizzards, mirages, and inner coldness, forcing them to confront loneliness and isolation, and to find warmth within themselves. Amidst the icy trials, Illyra's connection to nature blossomed anew, revealing a hidden power, the ability to awaken life even in the harshest winter. With the shards of wind, fire, and ice in their possession, the trio felt the power of the elemental guardians flowing through them, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. But Cassion's forces grew desperate. Spreading corruption and summoning twisted creatures, they sought to fracture the alliance and seize the elemental powers for themselves. A dark ambush in the frozen wastes forced Illyra and her companions into a fierce battle for survival. Allies fell, secrets were revealed, and the true price of their quest became clear. As the icy winds howled around them, Illyra vowed, the elemental convergence would be their last stand against Nocturnus's shadow. The bitter winds of Glacera still bit at their skin, but Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus pressed on, hearts heavy yet resolute. The shards of wind, fire, and ice glowed faintly in their palms, symbols of their victories and burdens. Night had fallen when they reached the Veil of Memories, a mystical veil rumored to hold the collective memories of the elemental guardians. Here, the past and present intertwined like threads in a tapestry, revealing truths long buried. As they stepped into the shimmering mists, Illyra's mind was flooded with visions, moments of joy, pain, betrayal, and sacrifice, echoes of those who had come before them. Faces she recognized, others she did not, but all bound by a common fate. Livia gasped as a vision revealed her family's ancient ties to Flora's lineage, a legacy of protectors sworn to guard the balance. Her faith deepened, her resolve sharpened. Marcellus confronted his own shadow, the betrayal he had hidden, the guilt that had nearly destroyed him. But within the veil's embrace, he found forgiveness and a renewed purpose. Suddenly, the mists parted to reveal a figure cloaked in shadows, the seer of elements, an enigmatic oracle who spoke in riddles. Only the united heart can bind the elements, but beware the fracture within. Trust is the blade that cuts deepest. The warning stung. As the group reflected, they realized the greatest threat was not just the darkness outside, but the shadows within themselves. Suddenly, a piercing cry shattered the tranquility. Cassion's dark emissaries ambushed them, wielding corrupted elemental magic. A fierce battle ensued, spells clashed, the veil trembled, and alliances were tested. Illyra channeled the power of the elements with newfound mastery, turning the tide. In the aftermath, though victorious, the group bore fresh wounds, physical and emotional. The seer's words echoed, unity was fragile, but necessary. As dawn broke, Illyra vowed to heal the fractures among them, to lead not just with strength but with heart. The journey to unite the elemental guardians continued, but the true test was still to come. The world stood at the edge of a blade. After their long and perilous journey through realms of wind, fire, and ice, Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus had finally gathered the elemental shards, the very essence of nature's power. Yet, the greatest challenge awaited, facing Nocturnus, the devourer of light, in the heart of the temple where shadows threatened to consume all. The temple of Flora pulsed with ancient magic as the final ritual began. The umbral bloom, now awakened fully, radiated a dark energy that twisted the air and warped reality. Cassian, his power bolstered by Nocturnus's essence, stood atop the altar, a dark crown glowing with corrupted light. His voice echoed cold and triumphant, "With this power, I shall rewrite fate itself. Rome will bow, and darkness shall reign eternal." Illyra stepped forward, the lilac book open and glowing in her hands. Livia and Marcellus flanked her, each holding their elemental shards, their faces steeled with determination and hope. Illyra's voice rang clear as she began the incantation taught by the Seer of Elements, a chant woven from the language of the ancient guardians. The shards in their hands pulsed in response, releasing waves of light that pierced the dark veil suffusing the temple. A titanic battle of wills and magic erupted. Shadows writhed like living things, attempting to engulf the light, but Illyra and her companions summoned every ounce of courage, trust, and strength they had gained. Marcellus faced his inner darkness head-on, transforming his past guilt into a beacon of redemption that bolstered their defense. Livia's faith shone like a beacon, her prayers weaving protective wards around them all. Illyra, embracing her connection to flora and the natural world, became a conduit for the elemental power winds swirling about her, flames dancing at her fingertips, eyes shimmering in her gaze. Cassian screamed in fury as the forces of light tightened around him, Nocturnus's shadow shrieking in pain and rage. With a final surge, Illyra thrust the hardwood dagger into the heart of the umbral bloom. Light exploded forth in a radiant wave, purging the darkness and sealing Nocturnus once more. The temple was silent, bathed in a pure, golden glow. The shadows had lifted. Cassian fell to his knees, the dark crown shattered. But victory came at a cost. Marcellus, weakened but free, smiled faintly. "We did it. Together." Livia wept tears of relief and joy. Illyra looked to the sky beyond the temple's stained glass, seeing the eternal cycle of life reflected in the blossoming flowers. In the days that followed, Rome celebrated not only the festival of Floralia but also the courage and unity that saved the world. Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus were honored as protectors, guardians of the balance between light and shadow. Yet, Illyra knew the story was never truly over. The magic of the world was alive, and new stories, new battles and wonders awaited beyond the horizon. As the sun set on the eternal bloom, Illyra whispered a vow. To protect, to nurture, and to cherish the fragile beauty of life for as long as the flowers bloom. Title: The Eternal Bloom, A Journey Through the Elemental Realms. Description: Embark on an epic journey with Illyra, Livia, and Marcellus as they traverse mystical realms to unite the elemental guardians and confront the ancient shadow god Nocturnus. From the enchanted library of time to the fiery pits of Piraxis and the frozen tundras of Glacera, witness a tale of courage, betrayal, redemption, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Join them in the festival of Floralia, where ancient magic awakens, alliances are forged, and the fate of Rome and the world hangs in the balance. Will they succeed in sealing away the darkness forever, or will the shadows consume all? A fantasy saga filled with powerful magic, timeless legends, and unforgettable heroes.